For most of human history, the way we stored knowledge shaped the way we lived. From clay tablets to libraries, from hard drives to cloud servers, every era had its own way of remembering. But somewhere along the way, we forgot that memory isn't just storage, it's trust. When you save a photo, a document, or a video today, where does it go? Somewhere in a server farm owned by a handful of companies. Amazon, Google, Microsoft, the unseen custodians of human data. We rarely think about it, but this system has quietly centralized one of the most powerful resources on Earth: information. Our collective memory, our photos, our art, our research, even our history, lives on private servers that can disappear, be altered, or be censored. That's the silent problem of the modern internet. It isn't broken, it's owned. And that's where Filecoin enters the story. Not as another cryptocurrency, but as a movement to take back digital memory. Filecoin is building something radical: a decentralized storage network. A system where the world's data isn't stored by a few corporations, but by everyone. Instead of cloud servers locked behind corporate firewalls, Filecoin uses a marketplace of independent storage providers. Anyone with spare disk space can offer it to the network. Anyone who needs to store data can pay for it. All verified, encrypted, and recorded on the blockchain permanently. It's the return of something we lost: ownership. Because the internet was supposed to be free, open, and peer-to-peer. But over time, it became a series of closed gardens. Our photos live on Meta. Our code lives on GitHub. Our ideas live on platforms that profit from our participation. Filecoin wants to change that by turning the cloud into a public good instead of a private empire. And its mission isn't abstract. It's deeply practical. Think about scientific archives, cultural records, open source code, climate data, or even NFTs. These things can't depend on trust in one company. They need to live on a system that outlives any business, any government, any single failure point. That's what Filecoin promises: a permanent, permissionless, and provable storage layer for the entire internet. And it's built on the foundation of IPFS, the InterPlanetary File System, another project from Protocol Labs designed to replace the traditional web with one where files are found by what they are, not where they're hosted. In other words, Filecoin and IPFS are rewriting how the internet stores knowledge. Filecoin adds the economic layer, turning this idea into a living marketplace where supply and demand drive value. Those who contribute storage are rewarded. Those who use it pay transparently. No middlemen, no hidden terms. Just verifiable storage secured by cryptography. It's a big idea, one that challenges the trillion-dollar cloud industry. But Filecoin's vision isn't just about efficiency. It's about fairness. It's about a world where every bit of data, every memory, idea, and digital artifact can exist independently of control. And that's not just technology. That's philosophy. Because when we decentralize storage, we don't just change how data lives. We change who gets to remember. Filecoin is, in many ways, humanity's attempt to build a library that no one can burn. And to understand how it works, how such a system can exist at all, we need to go deeper. We need to look at the technology that makes this digital trust possible. The system of miners, proofs, and cryptography that holds this decentralized library together. At first glance, Filecoin might sound simple. People rent out their extra storage space, others pay to use it. But underneath, it's one of the most sophisticated systems ever built for digital trust. Because storing files isn't just about saving data, it's about proving that data exists and that it will stay safe for as long as it's needed. That's the challenge Filecoin set out to solve. How do you create a storage system that doesn't rely on faith but on mathematics? The foundation, IPFS. It all starts with IPFS, the InterPlanetary File System. Think of IPFS as the map for Filecoin's universe. In the traditional web, files are found by location, like URLs that point to specific servers. If that server goes down, the file disappears. But in IPFS, files are found by content. Each file gets a unique cryptographic hash, a digital fingerprint. When you want to access a file, the system finds any node that holds the version matching that fingerprint. This means there's no single point of failure. If one computer disappears, the file still exists somewhere else in the network. That's the beauty of IPFS. It replaces where with what. The economic layer, Filecoin. Filecoin takes that foundation and adds an economy, turning storage into a global marketplace. Here's how it works. There are two main participants: storage providers, miners, people who offer their hard drive space to store files; clients, users, people who pay to have their data stored. When a client wants to store something, they make a deal with a miner. The miner agrees to keep that data safe for a certain amount of time in exchange for FIL tokens. But how do we know the miner actually stores the data and doesn't just take the money? That's where Filecoin's innovation comes in. It's its proofs. Proof of replication and proof of spacetime. These two cryptographic proofs are what make Filecoin truly decentralized and trustworthy. Proof of replication, POREP. This ensures that the miner has made a unique copy of the client's data. They can't just fake it or point to someone else's file. They must physically store that exact data on their own hardware. Proof of spacetime. Post. This proof checks over time that the miner continues to store the data correctly. At random intervals, the network challenges the miner to prove, through cryptographic computation, that the data is still intact and accessible. If they fail, they lose part of their collateral and reputation. If they succeed, they earn rewards. These systems make cheating mathematically impossible. No central authority is needed to verify anything. The blockchain itself keeps everyone honest. The role of FIL token. The FIL token is the fuel of this ecosystem. It's used for payments, rewards, and collateral, aligning incentives between all participants. When storage providers act honestly, they're rewarded in FIL. When users need space, they pay in FIL. And because all transactions are recorded transparently, the market regulates itself, rewarding reliability and punishing dishonesty. The more people use Filecoin, the more valuable the network becomes. Not because of speculation, but because it's storing the world's information. This is what makes Filecoin more than just a cloud alternative. It's a living marketplace of trust. A system where honesty is enforced by code, not by contracts. Where storage is verified, permanent, and censorship-resistant. But while the technology is brilliant, Filecoin's true story lives in its impact, in how it's being used by scientists, creators, and builders who need reliable, decentralized data storage. That's what we'll explore next. The growing ecosystem of real-world applications powered by Filecoin. The power of Filecoin becomes real when you see how people are using it. Because it's not just a network, it's an ecosystem where builders, scientists, and creators are redefining how data lives on the internet. Across industries, Filecoin has become the backbone of decentralized storage, quietly securing humanity's most valuable digital assets. Preserving human knowledge. One of Filecoin's earliest and most profound missions is archiving the world's information. In partnership with the Internet Archive and the Starling Lab, Filecoin helps store permanent, tamper-proof records, from human rights documents to historical photographs and open scientific research. The goal is simple but powerful: to make sure truth itself has a place to live, even when politics, censorship, or time try to erase it. Every file stored on Filecoin is verified, replicated, and distributed across thousands of nodes, creating redundancy that no single company could match. If one node goes down, others take over. If a server is compromised, the data remains safe elsewhere. It's the digital equivalent of building a library that exists everywhere at once. Powering Web3 applications. Filecoin is also one of the key storage layers of Web3. NFTs, for instance, don't actually store images or videos on-chain, only their metadata. The actual files need a place to live. Filecoin provides that foundation, ensuring NFT assets remain available, verifiable, and permanent. Platforms like OpenSea, Rarible, and Mirror rely on IPFS and Filecoin to store digital art, collectibles, and creative works in a way that can't be altered or deleted. This combination of blockchain and decentralized storage ensures digital ownership finally means what it should: control that lasts. Scientific research and open data. In science, Filecoin has found another purpose: helping researchers store and share massive datasets. Projects like Filecoin Green and DataDAO initiatives are using the network to store environmental and climate data transparently. It allows scientists around the world to collaborate on research without centralized intermediaries or hidden biases in data custody. For example, climate researchers can now store satellite data directly on Filecoin, ensuring it's accessible, secure, and tamper-proof for future generations. The same principle applies to genomics, AI model training, and machine learning, where data accuracy and integrity are everything. Empowering developers and startups. Filecoin also fuels innovation. Through Filecoin Launchpad and Protocol Labs accelerator programs, hundreds of startups have emerged, building storage apps, developer tools, and decentralized data services. These include solutions like Estuary, a gateway for developers to upload and retrieve data easily; Textile, tools for developers to integrate Filecoin and IPFS into Web3 applications; Fleek, hosting for decentralized websites and apps directly on IPFS or Filecoin. Each project contributes to a broader goal: making decentralized storage usable and mainstream. Because for all its complexity, Filecoin isn't meant to stay in labs. It's meant to live in everyday applications. A network that grows with use. The more data stored on Filecoin, the stronger the network becomes. As of now, over 16 exabytes of storage capacity are available. That's enough to store hundreds of copies of Wikipedia, global scientific datasets, or the entire public web. Each new participant, whether they're a miner, a developer, or a researcher, adds resilience, making Filecoin not just a product, but an ecosystem that scales with humanity's memory. And yet Filecoin isn't done evolving. It's now stepping into a new era, one where it's not just a storage network, but the foundation for decentralized computation, AI data pipelines, and the next phase of the open internet. That's the journey ahead, and it's what we'll uncover next. Filecoin's next chapter goes far beyond just storage. It's moving towards something bigger, something that could redefine the entire digital economy. If the first era of Filecoin was about storing data, the next one is about activating it. From storage to computation, imagine a world where all the world's data, scientific, cultural, creative, isn't just sitting idle on servers, but being processed, analyzed, and shared securely across an open network. That's the direction Filecoin is heading. Through Filecoin Virtual Machine, FVM, the network is becoming programmable, capable of running smart contracts directly on top of stored data. It's a massive leap forward, because until now, storage networks were passive. They could hold your data but not interact with it. FVM changes that. Now developers can create autonomous applications that manage, verify, or even monetize data, all within Filecoin's decentralized infrastructure. For example, you could build a data DAO that collectively owns and controls a scientific dataset, allowing researchers to access it transparently while rewarding contributors. Or an AI training system that taps into decentralized storage to train models without ever exposing private data. This transforms Filecoin from a data warehouse into a living computational layer, where information isn't just preserved, but used intelligently. Filecoin and artificial intelligence. AI needs data the way humans need oxygen. But in the current system, data is controlled by a handful of companies, the same ones training massive AI models behind closed doors. Filecoin offers a different path, a decentralized foundation for open, verifiable, and collaborative AI development. By storing datasets transparently and securely, Filecoin can help train models that are open source, auditable, and fair, free from the biases and opacity that dominate corporate AI systems. Projects under the Filecoin AI Alliance are already exploring ways to integrate decentralized computation with machine learning pipelines, where data, training, and output verification all happen on-chain. It's an ambitious step, but it could redefine trust in AI altogether. The rise of the open data economy. In the traditional internet, data is extracted and monetized by platforms. You upload your content, they sell your attention. But Filecoin envisions a different kind of data economy, one that's open and reciprocal. Every byte has value. Every contributor has ownership. Every dataset can be governed collectively through smart contracts that enforce fairness automatically. This idea of data as an asset class is already emerging, where data stored on Filecoin can become a productive digital resource, just like liquidity in DeFi. The result? A true open data economy, powered by people, not platforms. Building the interplanetary infrastructure. When Protocol Labs first designed IPFS and Filecoin, they weren't thinking just about today's internet. They were thinking about the future of civilization's information systems, an internet that can survive anything, time, distance, even planetary boundaries. That's why IPFS was called the InterPlanetary File System. And Filecoin's vision naturally extends that, to be the economic engine that keeps humanity's knowledge alive anywhere. From Earth's data centers to Mars habitats, the architecture is designed to be timeless and borderless. Filecoin isn't just about what it can do now. It's about what it's building toward, in a world where data itself is sovereign, secure, and shared. But technology, no matter how advanced, is only half the story. The other half is human, the question of why this all matters. Because behind every file, every byte, and every protocol is a deeper reason. The fight for control over our collective memory. That's what we'll explore next. The conclusion and what Filecoin truly represents for the future of digital freedom. Filecoin isn't really about technology, it's about memory. It's about who gets to remember and who gets to decide what stays. We live in a time when most of our digital lives exist on borrowed space. Our photos, our documents, our art, even our history, all live on someone else's server behind someone else's terms. It's a quiet trade we've all made, convenience for control. And Filecoin exists to reverse that trade. Because what's at stake isn't just data, it's trust. Filecoin reimagines one of the oldest human needs, the need to preserve. For centuries, we built monuments, libraries, and archives to remember who we were. Now, in the digital age, we build blockchains. But Filecoin isn't just an archive, it's an immune system for information. A way to ensure that what's true, what's valuable, and what's human doesn't vanish when a server goes offline or a company changes its policy. It's a promise that no single entity should ever own the world's memory again. And that's what makes Filecoin so quietly powerful. It takes something abstract, distributed storage, and gives it moral weight. When a journalist in exile stores their work on Filecoin, it means no government can erase it. When a scientist uploads climate data, it means future generations can still access it, long after the servers of today are gone. When an artist mints an NFT and anchors it in Filecoin storage, it means their creation is permanent, not rented space on a tech company's drive. These are small acts of digital sovereignty. Together they form a revolution. Filecoin's vision is both simple and profound. Make the internet permanent, private, and public, all at once. Permanent, because data is replicated, verified, and stored beyond single points of failure. Private, because encryption keeps ownership in the hands of the user. Public, because anyone can participate, earn, and contribute. It's a kind of digital commons. An internet built with people, not on them. And that idea changes everything. Because if data is power, then decentralizing data means redistributing power itself. But the most beautiful part of Filecoin's vision is its humility. It doesn't promise to own the future, and only to protect it. It doesn't seek to compete with giants like Amazon or Google. It seeks to remind us that the internet was never meant to be owned. It was meant to be shared. And maybe that's the point of all this. To build systems where trust doesn't depend on companies, but on code. Where memory doesn't belong to institutions, but to humanity. Filecoin, in its quiet, decentralized way, is building that world. Because someday, when people look back at this era, at the first steps of Web3, at the messy birth of a decentralized internet, they'll see Filecoin as something more than a project. They'll see it as a foundation for permanence in an age of deletion, a foundation for freedom in an age of platforms, a foundation for memory in an age that forgets too easily. And maybe that's the real legacy. Not the code, not the tokens, not the protocol, but the principle that no single person, company, or nation should ever own the world's data again. Filecoin is proof that the internet can still belong to everyone. That memory can be collective. That truth can be permanent. And that's not just innovation. That's redemption, then for the web and for us.